And we're starting with Matt Riddle, who has wasted little time in becoming a big star in WWE, but his personal life outside the ring has often proved problematic for the original Bro. Fans are no doubt aware of Riddle's multiple personal issues, some of which were even referenced on TV during his feud with Seth Rollins, and there is now another situation out of the ring. After being removed from TV after a failed second drug test and also due to his controversies, including infidelity among others, Riddle returned to WWE TV on the post-WrestleMania 39 Raw. Since then, though, it has been clear that he is not being seen by management as a potential top star like he was before his absence and hasn't reached the same heights he once did. Taking to Instagram this week, Riddle shared a photo of an officer from JFK International Airport claiming that the person in the photo sexually assaulted him during an inspection. Riddle made it clear that just because he's nice, that doesn't mean people can touch him in the way the officer allegedly did, adding that he was made to feel small and useless. Riddle called it one of the most uncomfortable travel days I've ever had, and sarcastically thanked New York City for being progressive and accepting. When Ringside News reached out about this situation, they received a much different side of the story, with an officer on the scene describing Riddle as extremely intoxicated at the time. The source added that Riddle was intoxicated on alcohol, and that his words at times felt slow and slurred, adding that Riddle had potentially taken other substances, and predicted that the Raw superstar was high on weed. Ringside News were also told that Riddle was acting disruptive, resulting in more officers being called, and that this situation took place between flights as Matt was heading home from India from WWE's Superstar Spectacle. An officer at the scene said that we informed him several times that he's been asked to be removed from the area, only to get a negative response from Riddle every time, who's mentioned he is a WWE superstar. An officer at the scene also claimed that they made a few attempts to de-escalate the situation with Matt Riddle before it became physical, and that Riddle took exception to the officer in charge. Riddle, according to the officer, tried to use his clout as a WWE superstar to get preferential treatment after he made a scene, but of course the officers weren't going to be swayed. Riddle's post on social media wouldn't last long, as he would delete the post with a photo of the officer he is accused, but not before the post was screenshotted by others. Ringside News was further told that the officer who Matt Riddle accused of sexually assaulting him on Instagram has an unblemished record and has never been accused of anything else in the past. The former US champion was told that if he has an issue with his treatment, then he should file a formal complaint, but Riddle brushed off the idea, according to a source at the scene. In a separate social media post, Riddle wouldn't refer to the allegation he made, but said he finally was leaving JFK Airport and declared to the world that he would never go back to the airport. When Ringside News reached out to sources in WWE, it confirmed that the company are launching an investigation into what happened, but gave no details on what WWE has learned so far. This situation is certainly alarming, as nobody deserves to be treated the way Riddle claims he was, but the reports of him being intoxicated could doom his wrestling career, at least with WWE. After all, Riddle had to miss the last part of 2023 because he attended rehab, and a major slip-up like the one that's been reported could lead to WWE severing ties with the problematic superstar. Since returning from rehab, Riddle has lost to Gunther and been in a tag team with Drew McIntyre, which are fine spots, but nowhere near the higher position he was in early 2022. We'll continue to keep our eye on this ongoing story. An official report is not available yet, but it is expected soon, especially with Riddle being a publicly known figure. This isn't even the only incident that Riddle has had within the past week, as Wade Keller reports that he had a backstage altercation with his producer in India. These issues were concerning scheduling, and while it is reported that the situation was not wholly serious and ended well, it's another bad look for the former US champion. As of this time, Matt Riddle has not responded to this new information about his situation, and while he never intends to step foot in JFK Airport again, expect to hear plenty more about what happened in New York City. On the surface, tonight's Raw isn't anything special, as it's neither the go-home show for a premium live event, nor is it the fallout from a PLE either. Tonight's Raw, on the surface, seems like just another episode of the Red Brand like we've seen before, but in fact, this could be the most significant episode of Raw over the past 30 years. With reports that WWE's deal with Endeavor will be finalized this week, tonight's Raw will likely be the last Raw from the McMahon-led era of WWE, but the family won't be in town. Mike Johnson, a PW insider, reports that there are currently no plans for the McMahon family to be at tonight's Raw, despite the milestone nature of the show. Vince McMahon is said to still be recovering from his recent back surgery, while Shane hasn't appeared since his torn quad suffered at WrestleMania 39. As for Stephanie and Linda, they've distanced themselves from WWE over the past 2 years, so it's never expected for either to appear at a WWE taping. The report added that WWE would hype up the Monday night show if the McMahons were appearing, so the fact that they haven't should put to rest any notions of the McMahons on the show. Tonight's Raw will be historic and will likely mark the end of an era in wrestling, but as far as what fans see on TV, it'll just be a Raw like any other without the McMahons around. For weeks, Tommaso Ciampa has been on the hunt for Johnny Gargano, to the point that he has been using a missing person poster in his efforts to track down his friend and former rival. Now it appears that Ciampa's search is over, as Gargano made his return to action this past weekend at a WWE Live event in Uniondale, New York. Unfortunately for the former NXT champion, this match would see Gargano lose to Omos, who competed against Gargano in his previous match back in July of this year. Gargano's most recent TV match saw him work a battle royal back in May, and fans wanting to see his most recent televised singles match will have to go back to NXT Stand and Deliver of April of this year. Gargano's absence from TV has been something of a mystery, as while he was dealing with a re-aggravated shoulder injury earlier this year, he has been cleared to wrestle for months now. The Raw superstar was even backstage at a June episode of Raw in his hometown of Cleveland, but went unused, and with his return to the ring this week, it may not be long before he's back on TV. On the latest episode of AEW Collision, Bryan Danielson spoke about a promise to his 6-year-old daughter, saying that he intends to wrap up his wrestling by the time she turns 7. After retiring due to neck issues in 2016, Danielson will be going out on his own terms at some point in the next year, but this may not mark the end of his time in the ring after all. Sources close to the situation who spoke to Sports Illustrated confirmed that Danielson does indeed intend to wrap up his full-time wrestling career over the next year, but not his career entirely. One source said that Danielson may continue as a special attraction for AEW, competing on a part-time basis, presumably only at major events to boost the company's visibility and ticket sales. Throughout his time in AEW, Danielson has followed a reduced schedule and emphasized his role as a father over his wrestling career, and has taken on a significant backstage role with creative. During the All In media scrum, Tony Khan spoke about wanting Danielson for next year's Wembley event, so while he'll be finished full-time soon, we haven't seen the last of Bryan in the ring. AEW All In will be a show that Jack Perry will never forget due to his backstage altercation with CM Punk, and despite being a heel, Perry did have some support from the crowd. On Twitter, fans pointed out that Perry's mother and sister were in the crowd at All In, with many finding it amusing that they watched Punk's match mere minutes after what happened backstage. Of course, Perry's family had no idea what had happened, as news of Punk and Perry's altercation would not be made public until later on during the show. Now CM Punk is gone and Jack Perry has been suspended indefinitely, at least giving the former Jungle Boy more time to watch matches with his family, though we doubt the Perrys will be sitting down together and putting a Best of CM Punk collection in the DVD player. LA Knight has proven himself as one of WWE's most popular superstars today, and on last week's SmackDown, WWE may have revealed what's next for him. During the show, Paul Heyman was engaged in a discussion with Adam Pearce, which was promptly interrupted by Knight, and as Heyman pointed out, they've never spoken face to face. Heyman praised Knight, admitting to be a massive fan of his work before turning serious, warning Knight that the next time he attempts to interrupt Heyman, he should consider knocking first. Many believe that WWE is planting the seeds for Knight to face Roman Reigns in what would be the biggest match in the career of the former $1 Million champion. Heyman would even seemingly mock Knight's popular "yeah" catchphrase, something the superstar did not appreciate, and could LA Knight be the one to dethrone the undisputed WWE Universal Champion? As you'd expect, fans have been sharing their theories online, with some speculating that Heyman could join forces with Knight and betray Roman Reigns in the process. After all, Heyman said he is a fan of Knight, and it wouldn't be the first time Paulie has betrayed a client. Just ask Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2002, or at last year's Royal Rumble. Together, Heyman and Knight could help cement the megastar's place on top of the Blue brand, and would certainly lead to the duo being booked in more high-profile storylines. With that said, Wade Keller reports that the interaction on Smackdown was a one-off, at least for now, and that Roman Reigns is currently enjoying his hiatus from WWE programming. In the meantime, Knight will continue to work his way up the card, dealing with heels on the Blue brand, but could a showdown with Roman Reigns be in his future? Time will tell. It's been 1 year, 1 week, and 1 day since Solo Sikoa made his main roster debut at Clash at the Castle, and since then, the Bloodline's enforcer has been truly dominant. Whether it's coming to the aid of Roman Reigns or competing in his own matches, Sikoa can rarely be stopped, which is why it was so shocking to see him lose at a recent WWE live event. AJ Styles has had an issue with the Bloodline in the last few weeks, including facing Jimmy Uso during the latest Smackdown, and was able to defeat Sikoa at the Saturday event in Uniondale, New York. Styles may currently be dealing with the likes of Sikoa and Jimmy Uso, but he's no stranger when it comes to facing Roman Reigns himself, with the pair sharing the ring numerous times in the past. With that said, it's been some time since the pair last locked horns on TV, as their most recent match was at Extreme Rules in 2016, but they did have a live event match last year. Given these recent developments and Styles' issues with the other Bloodline members though, many believe it's just a matter of time before AJ challenges the Tribal Chief when Reigns makes his return. The undisputed WWE Universal Champion is currently on hiatus after his victory over Jey Uso at SummerSlam, and if Styles vs. Reigns is the plan, it'll have to wait until WWE's biggest star returns. Are you interested in AJ Styles being Roman Reigns' next opponent? Or do you think someone else should step in the ring with the head of the table? Let us know in the comments. It's no secret that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is an exceptionally generous individual, often doing what he can to help those in need. It was only recently that the Brahma Bull and Oprah Winfrey launched a $10 million fund to help those affected by the Maui wildfires, and now The Rock has proven his generosity once again. Taking to Twitter, Mika Rotunda, the sister of the late Bray Wyatt, thanked The Rock for his kindness, condolences, and love in the 2 weeks ever since Wyatt's sudden passing 2 weeks ago. Mika added that Johnson has made sure to keep the Rotunda family's fridges filled with groceries and meals at this difficult time, giving the family more time to be with each other. This is an incredibly kind act by the former WWE champion, who never had the chance to face Wyatt one-on-one, but did share a segment together alongside the Wyatt family and John Cena in 2016. The Rock has earned plenty of nicknames in his career, from the Great One to the People's Champion, and once again, he's proven to be the most generous star in sports entertainment. In the new generation, Razor Ramon was hard not to notice, thanks in part to his impressive physique, but also for the colorful outfits he wore in and out of the ring. Ramon's colorful getups scream mid-90s, and it seems that the two-time WWE Hall of Famer may have inspired none other than US Vice President Kamala Harris. As pointed out by a fan on Twitter, the Vice President of the United States was recently spotted wearing an outfit that was inspired by Razor Ramon's usual getups. This was certainly an interesting observation, as it is not known whether it was a pure coincidence on Kamala Harris's end to wear something that was inspired by Razor Ramon. Whatever the case may be, Harris certainly seemed to be enjoying herself this week in an outfit that wouldn't have looked out of place during a Razor Ramon promo on Monday Night Raw. From the moment CM Punk was fired from AEW, there has been rumors of a potential WWE return, with Punk even attempting to make a comeback in late 2022. The idea of Punk returning to WWE hasn't exactly gone down well, with the real world champion still having major heat with some top superstars, but not everyone is against the idea. Speaking on his Strictly Business podcast, Eric Bischoff gave his 2 cents and argued that Punk returning to WWE could be beneficial for both parties. For Punk, Bischoff said that it'll give the controversial star a chance to make a lot of money and end his wrestling career on a positive note, but said Punk needs to reflect on his own toxic behavior first. For WWE, having Punk back would of course bring a lot of interest to the shows, and said that despite the animosity, he believes WWE wouldn't flat out refuse a return if the right deal is reached. Bischoff concluded that Punk returning to WWE will ensure he's remembered and not a cult wrestling star nobody will remember 10 years from now. With Bischoff not having any role with WWE at this time, he will not have direct influence over the possible rehiring of CM Punk, and neither will Monday Night Raw's Drew McIntyre. Speaking with WrestleBinge, McIntyre was asked about the possibility of CM Punk returning to the company he walked out of in 2014 and made it clear it wouldn't be his call. He said, I don't make those decisions. I watch what I say in interviews, but Punk is certainly controversial and he gets people talking, so I'll leave it at that. McIntyre and Punk have never faced off before, but were allies in a 6-man tag team match during the December 18, 2009 Smackdown, where they teamed with Luke Gallows. If CM Punk returns to WWE, it won't be McIntyre's decision, but do you think WWE should give this former AEW star a call? Let us know in the comments below. Last week, Gable Steveson's name was removed from the WWE NXT roster, raising questions as to his future in the squared circle. In a surprising twist, though, Steveson resurfaced at an NXT house show in Sebring, Florida, and locked horns with Dante Chen in what one attendee described as a back-and-forth affair. In the end, it was Steveson who got the win, using the ankle lock that fellow Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle used for years in an homage to the Hall of Famer. This was Steveson's second ever professional match and his first win in the ring, and gave fans at the Allen J Arena in Sebring, Florida, an unforgettable night of wrestling action. When you attend a WWE event, you're allowed to take photos of the show, a personal memento of your evening of live pro wrestling. At a recent live event in Uniondale, New York, though, one fan made it clear that they only had eyes on one superstar, that being Zelina Vega, and a very particular part of Zelina Vega's body. Rather than take photos of the tag team match that was happening in the ring, the fan focused on the backside of Vega, who was stood on the ring apron, and made sure to get a photo. This is certainly disturbing, as WWE superstars are not mere objects for people to take suggested photos of, but the show was still a huge success, something that fans will remember more. Last October, Ariana Grace went down with a knee injury, one that would require a surgery for the second-generation superstar. Now close to a year later, Grace has made her return to action, competing at an NXT live event in Melbourne, Florida this past weekend. Grace's ring attire included a sash and a tiara, referencing her time competing in the Miss Universe Canada pageant during her absence, and the match saw Grace take on Fallon Henley. Unfortunately for the daughter of Santino Marella, it was Henley who got the victory, but Grace will no doubt be happy to be back in the ring after missing close to a year of action. This past week, Impact Wrestling recorded its 1000th episode, which will air this coming Thursday, and the milestone event saw quite a few surprising names show up. As you'd expect, Impact's on-screen authority figure Santino Marella was at the show, and on Twitter, the former superstar shared a selfie with his old WWE tag team partner Vladimir Kozlov. Kozlov and Santino teamed in WWE in the early 2010s and at one point held the WWE Tag Team Championships, and it's clear that the pair have remained friends ever since. Kozlov left WWE in mid-2011 and hasn't competed in a wrestling match since October 2012, but the Moscow Mauler clearly still has a connection to the industry and the friends he made. And we're ending with Rob Van Dam, who became WWE Champion in 2006 in what RVD has called his favorite match of his career. Mere weeks later, though, things came crashing down for RVD as he and Sabu were pulled over by law enforcement for speeding, and the officers found weed, Vicodin, and drug paraphernalia in the car. Since then, the story has been that both were arrested, and that led to WWE quickly booking RVD to lose both his WWE and ECW championships, but that's not entirely accurate. While RVD did lose the title, he explained during his one-of-a-kind podcast that he was not fired from WWE as some have claimed, and in fact, he wasn't even arrested for the incident. When RVD returned from a suspension, he never won another championship in WWE, a sign of how the incident affected his career, but Van Dam wants it to be clear that he was never arrested.